Story Narae, the art of storytelling.
Story Narae, where every book opens to a new tale. Today's story is considered one of the most tragic cases in the Sherlock Holmes short stories The Five Orange Pips. First published in 1891 in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, it is remarkable because Holmes, despite his genius, fails to save his client. This unusual ending left readers with a lasting impression. Sherlock Holmes Mystery Collection. The third story. One of the most tragic and mysterious cases in the Holmes stories. The Five Orange Pips. Begins now. When I glance over my notes and records of the Sherlock Holmes cases between the years 82 and 90, I am faced by so many which present strange and interesting features that it is no easy matter to know which to choose. Some, however, stand out from the rest by reason of their grotesque details and strange results. The case of the Five Orange Pips is one of these. It was so remarkable in its details and so dramatic in its results, that, though there are points connected with it which never have been, and probably never will be, cleared up, I cannot resist the temptation to place it upon record. It was in the year 87 that my story begins. Holmes had received a letter one day, asking him to grant an interview to a young gentleman who had come to Baker Street in great agitation. As we sat in our rooms at Baker Street, the door opened, and a young man entered. He was pale, trembling, and plainly in a state of nervous agitation. "My name is John Openshaw," said he. "I live at Horsham, where I have a small estate of my own. But my reason for calling upon you is connected with my uncle and my father, and a most singular family history." Holmes motioned him to a chair and listened with his keen, quiet interest. I, too, settled myself to hear the strange tale which he had to tell. "My father had two brothers," said our visitor. "One of them, my uncle Elias, emigrated to America when he was a young man and prospered there. At the end of the war he returned to England a rich but eccentric man. He bought a small estate in Sussex and lived there in seclusion. He was a fierce, heavy drinker, and avoided company. It was in January 85 that he received a letter from Pondicherry in India. It contained 5 dried orange pips. There was no explanation, no word written, only the 5 little seeds enclosed. The 5 orange pips are not a mere prank. They symbolized a real death threat used by the Ku Klux Klan, a secret society in the American South. Receiving such a letter meant that one's life was already in danger. From that day, his life was full of terror. He spoke of sudden death, and within a week he was found dead in his garden pond. The verdict was suicide, but I knew it was not so. It was in January of 85 that my poor father, who had succeeded to the estate, received also a letter with 5 orange pips. He laughed at it, and said it was some senseless practical joke. Within a few days, however, he went out, never to return. His body was found in a chalk pit. The verdict was suicide, but I knew well it was not so. His papers had been destroyed, just as my uncle's had been. And now, gentlemen, this very morning I myself have received a letter from East London. In it were 5 orange pips. What am I to do? Holmes sat silently for some minutes, his brows knitted, his eyes half closed. Then he spoke. This is no chance. The 5 orange pips are the mark of the Ku Klux Klan, a secret society formed in the southern states. Your uncle had quarrels with them. Your father inherited the shadow of his fate. Now it has fallen upon you. You must act at once. Place your case in writing at once, make your will, and put your affairs in order. Above all, do not delay. Alas! It was too late. The very next morning, we read in the papers that young John Openshaw had been found dead in the Thames. He had left our rooms full of hope, but fate had overtaken him. Holmes's face was dark with anger. If I had acted quicker, my client might still be alive. Now it is justice that remains. The murderers are sailing today for America on the steamship Lone Star. I have sent them a letter, just as they sent to Openshaw. Inside it, 5 orange pips. Let them feel the hand of retribution. Weeks later, we learned that the Lone Star never reached her destination. She was lost at sea with all hands. The 5 orange pips had done their work. The 5 orange pips is one of the rare Holmes stories where he fails to solve the case in time. Although Holmes identified the culprits, the client, John Openshaw, had already met his tragic end. The story shows that even Holmes is not all-powerful, reminding us that in life, some fates cannot be escaped. Thus, it remains a tale with a profound emotional resonance. Sherlock Holmes Mystery Collection. This was The 5 Orange Pips. A journey through books with story Narae. That's all for today's story. Join us again for the next adventure.